I'm Rick. I am a first year PhD student in BME. I am in the Schiffer Nishimura lab, and I mostly work with 2-photon, 3-photon imaging on mice for Alzheimer's disease.
All right, then I'll go next. Hey guys, I'm Juan. I'm in David Erickson's lab. I work in point of care diagnostics, and I mainly just build the diagnostics.
Okay, let me go next. Hi, I'm Jung-hoon. I'm from Dr. Yi Wang's lab. Actually, I just graduated from this lab, and then I studied the postdoc in the same lab. And then our lab mainly focused on the MRI. And then my research is about the quantitative susceptibility mapping, QSM, and cerebral oxygen consumption in the brain. Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jia Hao. So I'm a second-year PhD student. I also from the same lab as Zhang Hao. So I'm from Dr. Iwan's lab in New York City, and we're doing MRI stuff. And my research topic is about also the quantitative susceptibility mapping, and my kind of like clinical applications we have some kind of applications into the multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and also the Alzheimer's disease. Yeah.
So I guess if everybody has questions, go ahead, put it in the chat, or you know, you can just say it. So yeah, it's pretty open-ended. If there are no questions, do we have some prompts ready, Belinda, that might spur some conversation?
Sure. I mean, if there's nobody that has any specific questions, I mean, this is an area that I feel a lot of students, if I had to gamble, which I don't gamble, I would say this is the area that there's high likely you could end up down in New York City. So asking the folks that are on the call down in New York City, that is a different, that's a definitely different flavor of our department. You know, you become a Lincoln student, which means you're literally linking our two campuses together, but it does have its pros and cons to that. So this is definitely the spot where I would say my New York City grad students could definitely help us. I almost called you kids, but no, I know you guys are like definitely younger than I am, but yeah, I feel like this is the biggest, probably if I had to gamble, this is the track that would be a good possibility. Not totally, because obviously Rick and Juan are both in New York and Ithaca. But if you're definitely interested in Yi Wang's lab, 2 graduate students, 1 former graduate student, I actually can say now, are definitely can give you the pros and cons of that lab and what it's like to be down in the city, and there's definitely pluses and minuses to it. So watch the chats down at the bottom, guys, because they're also going to write in. Sometimes they're not in spots where they can actually ask questions.
So I guess before the city people talk about their experience, we just got a question from Alex asking what it's like to work in a lab with 2 PIs. So it's definitely an interesting experience. So most of the people in the lab kind of fall under one of the PIs normally. So Chris and Nozomi, they kind of head different projects. But for my specific project, the Alzheimer's project, they are involved kind of equally with it. So I work like very equally with both of them. So whenever I meet with one of them, I'm meeting with the other. But I think it's really good because I get 2 kind of voices into it, 2 different opinions that can help me with my work. And you can go to either of them for any sort of issue that you have. You don't just have to go to one. Like I'm technically under Chris, but I go to Nozomi for a ton of stuff as well. So I think it's really good to have 2 people that you can go to technically, because they are so involved with all of their lab people, not just people that are specifically under them. Question from Brooke. Were your lab rotations also with imaging labs? Can you speak to the optics related grad courses or what classes you took your first year that you liked? Yeah, so rotation wise, I did a rotation with Chris Nozomi, obviously, and then another one in the neurobiology department, actually, which I worked with Ian Elwood, who does imaging mice with 2-photon. So it was another imaging rotation. And then grad course wise, the first year, I know Juan and I took Nozomi's optics course, which was pretty good. It was basically just an intro to general optics, all different technologies and techniques. And then it was kind of like journal based too. So we would read different journal articles about current research going on. So that was really helpful. So I really liked that class. And there's a ton of other stuff going on. I don't know if anybody else has something I want to say about that.
I can add to that. So, I mean, I took Nozomi's class, and I still talk to a lot of my optics friends, and a lot of them take some classes such as photonics, which they have in photonics, which they have like classes for optical fibers and other kinds of stuff. So, if you want to learn more about that, I guess I can find more coursework. I haven't found more than that, but I know people that know more about it.
I guess just for other people, like other current students, what rotations you guys did, if you want to mention those.
So for me, I did rotation in Ithaca with actually not the imaging lab, but I did some other rotations, which I find is very interesting because actually you can explore yourself to a different field before you really like focus on one concentration. So for me, I had rotation with Ivan Deflamic and also another PI who's doing some proteomics things, which is basically it's related to some like mathematical modeling and bioinformatics things, which I think could like match with my background because my background is in like physics and also math. And so it's obviously it's kind of like a choice you can make when you're like down here and you can have a lot of different like opportunities to try different fields just to see if you like it or not. Yeah. And I'd say some people are asking questions about the lab based in New York City, which is it's Professor Iwan's lab. And how do you balance your activities in Ithaca and in New York City, and how do you balance your time between each campus? So actually for me, the first year I spent the whole time in Ithaca. So the first year will be, it's just about like taking class, doing rotation, and then decide which lab you're going to. And so for my year, we had this decision at the end of the first semester, which means that basically have one semester time to explore different labs, including a lab in New York City. And after the first year, it's actually like at the end of the second semester, when we started the summer immersion term, we actually will move to New York City, which means that after the summer immersion, it's kind of like we officially join the lab and then doing the work in New York City. And I think most of the time you spend like literally most of the time you're just in New York City, but not like in Ithaca. But actually you can, as a linkage program, so for example, as like people in my lab, we also can take some courses, which is especially like based in, because in New York City, there is the Cornell Tech campus. So basically you can take some course there. And if you like, you can also take courses from the medical school. I think John Hong, like he took one course.
Yeah, I can add to that. So I took like neuroscience courses from the Royal Cornell Medical College, so you can do that. So I think that's the basic sort of policy in our lab. Spend 1 year, 2 semesters in Ithaca, and then doing all the coursework, and then move to the New York City, and then spend like 4 years or something, until you're done with your PhD. That's basic policy in our lab.
Yeah.
Okay, this
so
is my
the
first time using
Uh-huh.
Zoom, so I don't know if it's working. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, it works.
Yes.
Did it go to my image? No?
Yes.
Okay, anyway, hi, my name is Brooke. I'm studying optics and I'm over in Bozeman, Montana right now, so that's why I'm interested in the imaging. But one of my questions was going to be, so you go to New York City for the immersion term, and then you kind of work with some people, and then I'm kind of confused because I thought the first semester at Ithaca, you do the rotation, so you find your PI. But then if you stay in New York, is that still your PI and you work with different people, or do you pick up a new PI?
So for me, I made a decision at the end of the first semester, but for the second semester, because we still have to take some of the courses, which means like before moving to New York City, it's better to take all the courses you want to take, like at the end, like for the second semester. And so during that time, I took some courses, and also I was doing the TA requirement, because for the BME PhD program, we have to do like at least one semester for the TA. So that was the time I finished this requirement for TA. And at the same time, I also had some like small project going on with Professor Iwan in the lab. So it's like basically working a little bit and also like doing other works and also the other requirement. Yeah.
Gotcha. Another question I have for you guys is, what kind of software do you use in your labs?
You mean in Yuang's lab?
What kind of software do you use in the lab?
So usually we use MATLAB based, and then some C++, and then we normally use the neuroscience, neuroimaging software such as FSL, SPM. That's usually what neuroscience guys use. Yeah, so I would say like 70 to 80% MATLAB, and then like 5% like C++. Not that heavily actually. Yeah.
That's good. I know MATLAB, but I don't know C++.
Yeah, me neither.
I think for me, like most of the time also MATLAB, and I use Python sometimes a little bit, yeah, too.
Did you guys take any of those courses in the PhD program, or did you just come in with all that experience?
You mean MATLAB?
Yep.
Actually, I had a little bit of experience because I did my alternative service for the military duty in South Korea. So at the time, I did some like MRI research a little bit. At the time, I studied, but I didn't have like heavy background, like heavy experience on the MATLAB. Yeah. So I think you can catch up like quite quickly. Yeah. Even if you don't have any like, heavy background. Yeah.
I think for me it's the same thing, because like during my undergrads, I did have some like programming experience in MATLAB and also like other programming language, but I almost forgot everything like when I joined the lab. So it's just basically, I think for the programming things, you can always like learn from very scratch. Yeah.
I think that in general, at least from my experience, having some coding background, programming background will help you. But most PIs here, at least during my rotations and what I've seen from others, is they don't really require you to be in the matter. As long as you have some basic skills, then you can take off from that.
Yeah, and I think just generally, like, people in labs are very collaborative. People will help you because if you don't have the experience, people will like very willingly help you with whatever you need and teach you, some programming that you may need in the future. So it's pretty easy to get into it if you don't have too much experience. Yeah.
I just want to say something about the other question. Hope I just mentioned it. So for the people in New York City, is it possible to take courses virtually after first year, and how does the transition go the summer of the first year? So I think, so for example, as me, I'm taking actually a course this semester, which is in Cornell Tech campus, which is by ORIE, and I just take it like virtually. And also the professor was very nice. He's very nice. He always use that kind of like tag in the classroom, which can project all the things he wrote on the blackboard, and then he also uploads all the videos, which is very helpful, like for a virtual class like setting. Yeah.
Any other questions about imaging, or the curriculum, or anything in general that we might be able to help you with?
I guess I have another question. It would be, what has been one of the most rewarding parts of your research, if there is a part of that?
Yeah, I can start. I'd say the most rewarding part. So I mean, specifically for me, I'm working with Alzheimer's mice. So it's very cool to be working on such a up and coming field of looking at Alzheimer's in a different light. So normally people will focus on plaque buildups like amyloid beta and all that stuff. But now we're looking at capillary blood flow in mice to as a different avenues. I think that's the most rewarding thing, is being involved in such a process that's like, okay, taking a totally different direction at, taking an approach to a disease that's been studied for so long and is yet to have, a clear path to a cure. So that's probably my take on it.
In my case, well, in grad, I used to build microscopes. That was my main research before, and now I just build diagnostics. So in my research, what I like is that despite that I'm not doing optics heavily like before, now I get to build a lot of stuff. So I get to learn about all the different like softwares that are out there, different ways to simulate, different ways to build things. So to a certain sense, it's rewarding in the sense that now I have a broader knowledge about designing and building devices.
Okay, for my case, I worked on some kind of a biophysics modeling to estimate the cerebral metabolic rate of oxygen, like brain tissue oxygen consumption. And then the most rewarding part is what I did is I combined two existing models to remove some unnecessary assumptions or like limits in each model, right? And then, okay, my rewarding part is, okay, now I came up with some kind of new novel method to do it. And then that's my most rewarding part. Also, I know this is kind of lame, and also it's just publication. You think about something and then you came up with, and then you found something new, and then just just publish something. I think that's kind of rewarding part. I know that's like secular, but yeah, for my case, that's my case.
So
Thank you for those answers. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So in my perspective, I think maybe I can take one of the example from my previous research project, which is about the multiple sclerosis. And because in our lab we don't do like we also have some kind of animal model, but most of the time we collaborate with the radiologist and also the neurologist in the hospital, which means we have a more like connection with this kind of disease which is happening on human. And So for example, for my project related to the multiple sclerosis, I studied this human image, and also like discuss a lot with radiologists, try to find any like kind of like pathological like evidence between the disease onset and also the disease development. I think it's very interesting and also very intriguing to get to this kind of opportunity to like combining the science and also the engineering together and into the medicine application.